Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, where we'll bring you the biggest political stories at midday live on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzang on the headlines. Senate confirms 3 more ministerial nominees to form President Tinubu's cabinet. ADC governorship candidate in Kogi State, Leke Abejide, inaugurates campaign council in Lokoja, the state capital. The PDP governorship candidate in Benue State and Kano governor file appeal over their tribunal judgment. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Our tracking begins from the National Assembly, where the National Assembly had to proceed to an emergency closed-door session when a ministerial nominee from Kaduna State, Mr. Balarabe Lawal, slumped while making his presentation during the screening exercise. Lawmakers quickly rushed to his aid. He was later revived and moved into an ambulance to transport him to a hospital for medical care. That was before the lawmakers, or before they confirmed 2 other people alongside himself. Our correspondent Linda Kigbe reports.
One moment, he's reeling out his vision for the Ministry of Environment, and the next moment, he slumps during a ministerial screening exercise on Wednesday.
I have participated in various professional development programs, including the general management courses, and also I have worked greatly in areas of visibility and in areas of environmental protection.
Water, give water. Water and sugar.
Members of the National Assembly security team and staff spring into action, trying to revive Mr. Balarabe Lawal, the ministerial nominee from Kaduna State. The Senate President takes charge of the situation, immediately calling for a closed-door session.
Will the cameraman have a closed session immediately?
Guests, staff, aides of lawmakers and journalists wait outside the Senate chamber for news about the condition of Mr. Lawal. Less than an hour later, the closed-door session ends, and we learn that efforts are ongoing to revive the nominee. Mr. Balarabe Lawal is eventually revived, and he speaks to journalists.
I'm all right now. I've been treated, and I'm all right now. It's basically a session.
Back inside the Senate chamber, the screening exercise continues, and the final nominee, Mr. Ayodele Olawande, appears before the Senate and speaks on the areas he would focus on should he be confirmed and sent to oversee the Ministry of Youths.
It is time for us to go back. In as much as a politician, we can go to the roots and corners of this country to campaign. It is time for us to go back to the schools. Train them, talk to them, let them feel the government, let them see the government, and let them touch the government.
Earlier, the Senate screened Dr. Jamila Ibrahim from Kwara State. Although lawmakers agreed not to question her, she spoke briefly on new ways of engaging young people and harnessing their talents.
I hope to use my office to positively influence Nigerian youth to have a voice at the decision-making table. And when we're designing our youth development plan, we hope to bring young people to the table so we can have an all-inclusive plan that profiles a bottom-up approach in order for young Nigerians to take ownership of the youth development plan and its implementation.
The Senate proceeds to confirm the 3 nominees, despite the incomplete screening of Mr. Balarabe Lawal, who slumped midway into the exercise.
The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, considered the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for the confirmation of nominees for appointment as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The 3 nominees confirmed on Wednesday will join 45 other ministers who were confirmed in August and would form part of the cabinet of President Bola Tinubu. Linda Akibi, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, over 200,000 international passports are now ready for collection out of the over 300,000 backlog. That's coming from the Minister of Interior, Mr. Olubunmi Tunji Ojo. It says that the ministry is working with the Immigration Service and their vendors to ensure that from next year, international passports are delivered directly to the preferred address of Nigerians. The minister spoke to journalists on the issue in Abuja.
And when we say enrollment, we mean people that have applied, captured. People that have captured 204,332 to be precise. We gave a marching order because the president is on our neck. He keeps saying, I didn't appoint any minister to make excuses. All ministers, all appointees were appointed by him to bring solutions and support to Nigerians. And in line with his agenda, we went into strategic meetings with the Nigerian Immigration Service, of course, with the cooperation and support of our service providers. I have to say this, as it would have been impossible without their support. Areas where we had 2 printing machines, like Ikeja, Alausa, like Kogi, like Ibadan, we were able to increase those printing machines at no cost to 444, from 2 to 4 each.
Let's head to Bayelsa State, where 704 employees from 3 higher institutions in Bayelsa State that were disengaged by the Serake-Dixon administration in 2018 have been reinstated by the Doye Diri-led government. Governor Diri made the announcement in the government house, Yanagwa, during a meeting with the state government, the labor union in the state, and the heads of high institutions.
In 2021, 12th of August, I directed the constitution of a committee to look into these issues. In NDU Amasoma, in College of Health, Otogidi, and which is the other institution? College of Education, yeah, Jasper, Azikadakaboro College of Education. And that was sometime in 12th of August 2021. Therefore, in view of the fact that most of these people have suffered some losses, some have even died in the process, as governor of Bayelsa State, having received their reports and looked at their prayers and recommendations, I hereby approve all of the recommendations by the committee that's contained here. Therefore, most of the staff, particularly in the Niger Delta University, where we have a preponderance of all the staff, the junior staff, most of them are hereby re-engaged.
I'm sure good news for all the staff that have been re-engaged. And Bayelsa is one of the states where watching ahead of the elections. You remember the off-cycle election is coming just about a month from now in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State. So our eyes and ears, as I've always said, are in those states. Besides what's going on in the court, whether at the Supreme Court for the presidential petition or the Court of Appeal for those that are appealing their cases from the tribunal. But today we want to focus on Imo State as everybody's looking out for that state as it prepares for the governorship election, just like what will happen in Kogi and, of course, Bayelsa State. And joining us is a member of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Marshall Okafor Anyan, who is the General Secretary of the Sam Jones Campaign Organization. He joins us from Owerri, the Imo State capital. Mr. Anyan, we thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning, my uncle, and good morning, Molites, Nigerians at large. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So, since the 7 state executives defected to the APC, so let's begin with your party. Since they defected from the PDP to the APC, your state executive, how has the party regrouped to recover and give this election its best shot in November?
Actually, you and I know that in as much as those 7 persons are working with the state ESCO, but that does not imply that they have a large chunk of people that left the party with them. They left as 7 individuals. So losing 1 vote is not good to the party. But at the same time, after they left, it was like a tsunami. We had received more than 20,000 defectors from other various parties, SDP, YPP, and Labour, name them. We have from about 8 political parties, but 3 major parties collapsed completely in Imo State into PDP. So it has been a barrage of influx of personalities, persons, and what have you. So we've not really had it hard. Never meant much to the party.
So you're telling us here that 7 people who served as state executive in your party did not have any, as you politicians call it, political value enough to cause any problem for you when they left. Is that what you're saying?
No, ordinarily, you know, it's a thing of the mind. You understand? And it's a personal decision. Oftentimes, people do things because probably the situation are not favoring them. Or possibly no politicians. They may have had a bigger bargain from somewhere, pecuniary, at least monetarily. So they want to fill in their pockets and they choose to make a move. That does not imply that the party is collapsing. The structural body of the party is still intact. And you know the state ESCO has a standard ESCO of over 50-something personalities that made up the state SWC of the party. So if person 7 has left the party, if you minus 7 from 54, still you have more than a third of the population still intact. The entire 27 local government chairmen of the party are intact, none left. The 305 ward chairmen of the party, none left. The zonal chairman, just 1, then 2 remained. So you look at it, the youth leader, the deputy youth leader took over immediately, the youth leader left. So there was no vacuum. The secretary, the zonal secretary from Olu took over immediately to cushion and cover up that gap of 1 person that had left the party. So if you look at the number, it is very, very minute. That is not to say that we didn't feel their impact. Of course, they have contributed 1 or 2 things to the party in making the party in the later days. But since they choose to sojourn to other grounds and probably where they think they can achieve their political dreams, so be it. We have moved on. We've not really felt. That is why I'm telling you we've not felt it. So if you minus 7 from 54, you can see that we still have about 45 persons still intact as part of the state ESCO of the party.
All right. I just don't want to drag it so much, but I think I understand that the governor has also given them, that's the governor Uzodimma, has given them appointments. And you politicians, I know that when it comes to seeking re-election, sometimes your appointment is based on who is going to be a good foot soldier to ensure that you win that election. But let's leave that. Let's talk about governance for a moment. In your view, you're speaking for your party now. What's your general assessment of the Uzodimma administration in the last, say, almost 4 years now?
Well, you know, there is nothing I would say here that will be adjudged as being the best assessment of the previous government, of the present government, since people know that we're trying to take over from them. So whatever thing we say may be assumed as one of those political jingoisms. But one thing is certain and sure, the records are there. The record speaks for itself. Before the present governor took over from Emeki Hedioha, the 7 months of Emeki Hedioha says a lot about internal and political administration in Imo State. And the governor as well know that after taking over from when the Supreme Court brought him in, after Emeka lost in court, in Supreme Court, and he took over as the executive governor or the executive governor of Imo State. I'm talking about the person of his distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, who is the present governor of Imo State. I can tell you that if I am to rate without being biased, without ambiguities, I will give him a rate of maybe 30% to 100.
All right, let's talk about something he's been pointing fingers at you. Imo State used to be like a destination for leisure in the southeast, Owerri to be precise, but there's been a level of insecurity that perhaps has not been seen in a long while. And when the governor speaks most of the time, he points fingers at the People's Democratic Party in the state. Is there a basis for this allegation?
Well, I think he perceived the People's Democratic Party as the only threat that will unseat him. So he has all gimmicks. He's doing everything to make sure that he unsettles PDP so that we wouldn't be focused. Ordinarily, the governor knows where the problem, the insecurity is coming from. He knows where it started. And you can agree with me that even in your television station, several people have been mentioned as being the brain behind the insecurity. Araduwe was mentioned at one time. Atike was mentioned at one time. Uchemosu was mentioned at one time. Emeki Hedahan was mentioned at one time. Lastly is Ugo Chinyere, whose house was burned down and destroyed. And at the end of the day, governor was the first person who issued a statement that is those that he recruited. How did he know that it was those that Ugo Chinyere recruited that burned down his properties? And 3 people were killed in his house. But this time, it is no longer Ugo Chinyere. It's now Samdadi, because Samdadi is coming strong and Samdadi is pulling strings. And Samdadi is changing the Duckling political narratives in Imo State. So he perceives him as to be the only threat for now that is standing between him and returning. So he sees that, and of course, he will stop at nothing to discrediting that person and making sure that the person doesn't have a shot. But all those political ringmoutism, by my own definition, will do no harm, will not stop us from taking over Douglas House by 11/12 of November.
I know you rated him 30% over 100, so I'm sure that the 70% you're talking about, there is a gap. What is that gap that you see that it hasn't met up that the PDP is offering through your candidate and his deputy?
You know, no society thrives amidst insecurity. I and you know that even in Nigeria today, we're facing that in some areas. But it's pertinent to note that the Imo State level of insecurity has gone beyond 100%. You know, people may not like to tell themselves the truth. You did say that Imo State used to be the hub of entertainment. Today, you can no longer see those things. 6 o'clock, every person has gone to sleep. Oloko is completely deserted, which used to be the center of business. I know the largest market we have in Imo State, apart from the ones in Owerri, the next market is Olumen market. But today is a shadow of itself. Nobody's there. So insecurity in the state has set business targets into comatose in Imo State. That is one. Then you're talking about the 70%. Then secondly, there's another thing. You know, oftentimes it is only when workers are paid in a money economy like Imo's. You know, we don't have industry there. What we have here is money economy from hand to mouth. And when over 5,000 workers were declared ghost workers, ordinarily, these are persons that have been earning salary in the last 15, 16 years. One of my cousins is a victim. She has served meritoriously for almost 17 years. She is a deputy headmaster of a primary school.
Mr. Ayan, if you can hear me.
Ghost worker.
If I may bottom Mr. Ayan, just a minute, because of the time we do not have. I did say you should reel out some of the things that your government will be doing if you're given a chance. I know that the debt burden had moved from 164 billion to about 220 billion, and the state is blessed with all kinds of natural resources and all of that. So what exactly differently that your government will do? Let me just say 2 things that will stand out if the PDP wins the election. In 30 seconds.
First and foremost, First and foremost is to stem insecurity. Second is to conduct local government elections, because the local government is the closest to the people. Once local government election is conducted, level of this insecurity will be very, very minimal. People can now advance and reach out to their persons personally, so that whichever money that comes to the local government will be utilized in that local government. And it will also envelop into developmental strides that will at least kick up the economy of every local government. If every local government's economy is stabilized today, the state will be better for it.
All right, Mr. Ayan, thank you so much. I've been speaking with Mr. Marshall Okafor, who is the Secretary General of the Sam Jones Campaign Organization, ahead of the November 11 governorship election in Imo State. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to other stories. The Benue State chapter of the People's Democratic Party and its candidate in the 2023 governorship election, Mr. Titus Uba, have appealed the judgment of the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal in the state, which upheld the election of Governor Hyacinth Alia. In a statement signed by the State Publicity Secretary, the PDP is challenging the judgment of the tribunal on 16 grounds, among which is that the tribunal erred in law on the issue of its jurisdiction to entertain both petitions. The PDP explains that it was also challenging the judgment by the tribunal, which held that the ground of the petition was a pre-election matter, among other issues. Now, the governor of Kano State, Abba Yusuf, has filed a notice of appeal challenging the judgment of the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sacking him as governor. Mr. Yusuf is asking the appeal court to set aside the judgment of the tribunal delivered on September the 20th and an order affirming him as governor. The tribunal ruled that the candidate of the APC, Nasiru Gawuma, emerged the winner of the March the 18th election. Mr. Yusuf, through his party, excuse me, the New Nigeria People's Party, in the appeal dated 2nd of October, said he is not satisfied with the judgment delivered and therefore asked the Court of Appeal to set aside the judgment because the tribunal erred by delivering the judgment virtually, which violates the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic as amended. In a bid to better protect the lives of Zamfara citizens, the governor of the state, Daud Lawal, has inaugurated Community Protection Guard. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant, Media and Publicity, noted that the governor also inaugurated the steering committee of the Community Protection Guard. The committee, chaired by the deputy governor and his members selected from relevant stakeholders and organizations, have been constituted and entrusted with the primary responsibility of devising an implementation framework that will enable the immediate commencement of the activities of the proposed Community Protection Guards. And Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State has raised concern over the high rate of out-of-school children in the state, urging all stakeholders to support the government to reverse the trend. During a meeting with senior citizens and elders, he briefed them on the activities of his administration so far. Governor Sani disclosed that there are currently 680,000 out-of-school children in the state, a figure he describes as alarming and totally unacceptable. He, however, says that his administration has embarked on the construction of over 62 new secondary schools.
Nigeria have the highest number of out-of-school children in the whole world. We have 17 million as of today. And Kaduna State have about 680,000 out-of-school children as we are speaking. And the only way we can be able to address the issue of sustainable development goal is to be able to make sure that every child go to school. And we realize that when we're trying to, we may be sitting here saying that we have free education at the primary and secondary school level, but that will not be enough to take children to school. There are other factors. If you don't eradicate poverty, those children will never go to school because their family, their parents will continue to allow them to go to farms to do petty trading, and they will abandon school. Having said that, we also are going to receive $28 million from the Kuwait Fund. And as we are speaking, the money will be channeled toward reducing the out-of-school children in Kaduna State.
Now, as Kogi State prepares for the November governorship election, the African Democratic Congress has inaugurated a campaign council for its candidate, Leke Abejide, with a mandate to work towards the victory of the party in the election. At the event in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, the national chairman of the party, Mr. Ralph Mosu, says the people of Kogi State deserve to enjoy the dividends of democracy under a new administration.
The Kogi State governorship candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Leke Abejide, makes his way into the state capital ahead of the inauguration of his campaign council. He is received by his supporters at the campaign headquarters in the heart of the state capital. The national chairman of the party is inaugurating the campaign council. The consensus here is that hard work is paramount for the party to ensure victory in the November 11, 2023 governorship election in Kogi State.
I want to appreciate all of you. Under very difficult conditions, you've been working. And you made Kogi to stand out as #1 in Nigeria, as far as ADC is concerned. But this thing you've done, by the time we have our governor, it will reverberate around Africa. I can assure you.
The party's flag is presented to the governorship candidate. The candidate and his deputy share their vision for the state.
There are loopholes that we can capitalize on and get people to our side. Number one, we can talk to the local government workers who, you know the situation now, their condition. You don't need to preach too much before they become a convert.
Nigeria now wants good leaders. Nigeria now wants people that are in administration. Nigeria now wants people that are experienced. Nigeria now wants people that have demonstrated empathy and love for humanity.
The inauguration climaxes with a cultural performance as members of the party are positive about occupying the Kogi State government's house.
The Yobe State Governor, Mai Malabuni, is set to resettle 14,800 malnourished, internally displaced persons in Buja local government area of the state after 13 years of Boko Haram insurgency. Governor Buni disclosed this when he paid a visit to the community alongside officials of the United Nations Development Program and Swiss government as the community seeks to return home. Thank you so much for being part of the program. I am Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime. Good afternoon.